Welcome. We've only got a couple of people on, which is fantastic, and thank you guys for coming. So I'm not going to go through a whole spiel. We're just going to get started and do this. Although, Teresa, if you do feel like upgrading, $29 bowling plate sets at the moment as a gift purchase. All right, so that's my little token of Merry Christmas. It's a bit hard to see. Actually, a customer gave me this. It's got a light in it, which is a bit hard to see with the white background, but she gave it to me. I did a delivery with her in December last year, and she gave me that, which was really sweet. All right, so we are going to make, I'm going to make a few things at the beginning, and then because my things take a little bit of time to cook in a Thermomix, and Irene is going to do lots and lots on icing her cookies. We had a really fun team meeting last Monday night, and we did some icing, and we also made sausages too. Anyway, let me get on with this. So I'm just going to my screen, my week, and I'm making the walnut brittle, except that it's pecan brittle, and it could be any type of brittle. So I have made some so I can show you the finished stuff. I made some a couple of days ago, and I had macadamia nuts that needed using up, so I used those. This is using the sugar stages on the TM6, so it goes up to 160 degrees. And what it does say is to guarantee the success of recipes using sugar stages mode, the ingredients must exactly match the quantities and descriptions specified. The recipe should also be cooked immediately after placing the ingredients in the mixing bowl. And I have to say this is really important. There's another really delicious brittly type thing, almond addiction, and I made that, and the first time I made that in this recipe, it's just one piece of butter. You can't, you know how often you dice up the butter into little cubes? In this, it's one piece of butter, and if you dice it up, it won't work. So a smart machine. All right, line a baking tray with baking paper. I have done that. It's a really old tray, and this is the baking paper actually used for the last batch I made, just reusing it. Doesn't stick on there. 200 grams of walnut halves. It's pecans. And I'm popping the lid on. 1 second, speed 5. So they want it to be a little bit chunky. When I make my own muesli, I generally do about 1 second. So that's what it looks like. So it's a bit of a mixture. I'm going to just put this down here. I'm going to pop it onto my tray. All right. Just distributing that out so it fills the tray. Okay, put that aside. Then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do on this screen, but I've got another Thermomix over here, which I'm going to put it onto to cook. So clean the mixing bowl. I have a clean mixing bowl here. And it says 250 grams of Demerara sugar. Now, Demerara is, I grew up with that in the UK. I'm using raw sugar. Oh. 250 when I put it in there. Anyway, I'll just put a little tiny bit more in so that we are super accurate. Oh, it's just over now. All right. And 70 grams of water. So I'm sure you're both aware that this measuring cup is 100 mils. So I'm just going to put some water in that to weigh. Yeah, 70 grams. Okay. 30 grams of unsalted butter cold. So I've got that in the fridge. I'll just grab that. Okay, so when you're cutting your butter, just cut it a little bit bigger, and then you can just slowly cut it down so that it's the right weight. Okay, 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, and I'll show you the tip in a minute. Just stops, the lemon juice just stops. There we go. 1 teaspoon lemon juice. The lemon juice stops it from burning. Then it's asking me to put the splash guard on, and I'll just show you what it's here. I will move it across. So putting the splash guard on, done. And then I get this come up on the screen. So you can see it's sugar stages, 22 minutes, and it's going to go to the maximum heat, which is 160. So I'm just going to move it off to the other Thermomix. So pull that bit. Bowl from there. So that's doing its thing over there. So that's, as I said, that takes about 22 minutes. It's quite a little bit noisier, and then it gets quiet. All right, so once that's doing that, I'm going to use my 3 dots here. No, you can't, Teresa, I'm sorry. Oh, no, this one you can't, but the almond addiction, I think you can. I'll have a look up, we'll have a look in a minute. So I'm cancelling that active recipe. I'm coming back up here into my week. The next thing I'm making is the chai tea powder. Okay, start cooking. So I have 1 teaspoon, let's angle this down a bit. On this plate, I've got 1 teaspoon of cardamom seeds. So what I've done, I've had my cardamom pod and I've split them open and I've taken the seeds out to get 1 teaspoon of that. 1 whole nutmeg. And you know, you can mill your nutmeg in your thermi too. So to get your powder. 2 star anise. Well, I'm using, I had lots of little bits at the end of mine, but you know what they look like, just the star anise. But I thought it's going to be mashed up anyway, I might as well do that. 6 whole cloves and 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns. So I'm going to put all of those in. Obviously, you want your bowl to be super dry. And the best way to do that is to obviously wash it, clean it, then I turbo it, and then you dry it, and then I turbo again. 1 ounce of cinnamon sticks. Now, 1 ounce, this is an American recipe. So it's automatically gone onto the imperial. It's quite a lot of cinnamon sticks, 1 ounce. So I'm just going to weigh those in. Let's break this one in half. There we go, 1 ounce. I'm going to pop the lid on. I think we're going to mill for a minute. Or 30 seconds on speed 10. Now, I'm just going to take you over to my other, I don't know if you better hear this. It's actually bubbling in there. Probably can't hear. All right. So now I'm going to, let's just get that one in there. There, I'll tell you what, smells incredible. I'm just going to scrape it on there. Okay. Or this is where you could also use a pastry brush just to scrape that off. It says 9 ounces of non-fat powdered milk, but I had a discussion with Irene because I don't use powdered milk except for in my yogurt, and I've only got full cream. So that's all going in. Just going to be creamier. There we go, that will do. 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. Stick the other end in to loosen it up. Perfect. 2.5 black tea leaves. So I'm not a tea drinker. I just got English breakfast tea because then Andrew will drink the rest of it. It's in there. 4.5 ounces of sugar. So I've just got 4 ounces. Again, it's the same stuff. It's just the raw sugar. It's going to be much bigger than the jar I've got for it, I'll tell you. Insert the measuring cup. And we're going to blitz for another 30 seconds. Transfer into a jar. So that was a minute of blitzing. And I have a huge amount of chai powder, which I just said I only got small jars. I've got this one here, which I will put it into in a minute whilst Irene's doing some stuff. But also it does give you instructions on how to actually make the chai. It smells really good though. So if I go into my recipe detail and I come down to the tips and tricks at the bottom here, it says it's got a stovetop method or a Thermomix method. So you can give it to anybody and just give them these instructions. The Thermomix is 8 ounces of water and 2 teaspoons of chai tea powder into the mixing bowl and cook for 5 minutes, 195 degrees Fahrenheit, which I guess is, so Andrew, what's 95? A bit, he says a bit, it's not very helpful. I'll work that out though, I'll stick that in the email. Speed 3 and then strain and serve. So a really easy Christmas present to make, I think. All right, so we're going to get out of that one. And we're going to go on to my third recipe, and then you will get to listen to Irene for a while. Because my things are cooking. So the other thing I'm making is caramelized balsamic reduction. So I wanted to make sure that we had a few more savory options for people like Teresa, who prefers savory over sweet. And I have to say I'm pretty much the same, although there are a few things that definitely get me. So hold on, I'm going to put 500 grams of balsamic vinegar in there. It comes out better than my olive oil, which I have to shake the whole time. This is an Aldi balsamic. Getting there. And in the meantime, my my Brittle has gone very quiet over there. I can just hear it. It's just very, very slowly bubbling. That's slowing down, isn't it? That'll do. All right, so we've got that. And then 50 grams of sugar or honey. So I'm going to use sugar because I've got it out here. And again, I'm just using the it's 90 degrees was the temperature for the chai. Yes, thank you. All right. And then all I'm going to do, because we're going over, we're going using Varoma temperature. Remember, we need to put the simmering basket on rather than the measuring cup. All right, so that's just going to cook for 25 minutes. We'll come back. My Brittle is 15.5 minutes away. So we're going to go to Irene. Let me just turn this on. And I will let Irene know when I have to act fast.
Oh, can't hear you, Mandy. I've lost you. Oh.
There you are. All right. Yeah.
Oh, I can't. Am I on screen? Have you pinned?
You're on screen. I pinned you. Hang on. Let me spotlight for everybody if I can do that. Well, it wasn't doing it. Unpin. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. Mandy, that's great with the chai spice because that's exactly what I'm doing this year. So if you joined us last week, you would have seen I picked up these gorgeous little chalkboard jars from Big W for $3. And to those, I'm going to do Mandy's chai spice for my Christmas gifts. And to those, I'm adding some of the cookies that we've been decorating. So as a gift for everyone that I've been, obviously working with this year, and thank yous for some of my customers as well. We had an absolute ball last Monday. It was hilarious. I've never heard Boone laugh so much in my entire life. So we had an absolute ball, decorating, having fun. We did a lot of silly ones. Our little gingerbread man, covering his private bits, which was quite hilarious. Pearl decided she wanted to decorate the reindeer, but it turned into a camel because she did it the wrong way around, but that's okay. We had a ball. And you can see we just had fun with lots of different toppings and, lots of our little, decorations. So it was a lot of fun. We mixed colors and that's the thing with this. It was such a great session just to sit back and have fun doing this. So it's a really way to get the kids involved, young and old. Sit down. It's really cheap to make some royal icing and go and buy, even from the supermarket, just some sprinkles, lots of different colors you can use. We're going to use obviously the royal icing today. I'm going to show you some stuff you can do with fondant as well, but it was so much fun. Now, when we baked these last week, the recipe, I think, said to cook them at about 180 degrees, which I knew was wrong, but we did it anyway. We followed the recipe. And as you know, things don't quite turn out. So they were pretty dark, cooking for that long. So I've changed the recipe, as you do. And essentially, I cooked them at 140 degrees for 12 minutes. And what you end up with is a perfect cookie with absolutely no color at all. Yeah. So do them at 140 degrees for 12 minutes. Now, if you're going to leave them like this, you need to cook them for longer because they're still, when you're chewing on biscuit and it kind of sticks to the roof of your mouth, they're still doing that. The reason you only cook them for the 12 minutes is because you pop them on with the royal icing and those sorts of things like I've done here, and they've got to go back into the oven at a really low temperature to essentially dehydrate for anywhere up to 4 hours. So I want to show you, it might be a little bit hard to see it on screen, but let's pick one. So if I show you that, hopefully you can see the light shining on it. So it's got a really lovely gloss. That's been in the oven only for about an hour. This is one we did on Monday, and you'll see it's actually turned matte in color. So it actually loses that gloss. So when you're using royal icing, ideally you have to put it back into the oven. You can't air dry it, which is what we did with all of those purely because of the logistics of everything. You want to basically ice them. And then once you fill up a tray, pop them into an oven, lowest temperature. I did these anywhere up to sort of 50 degrees. My oven goes as low as 35. If you've got a dehydrator, you can use that as well. And that's going to give you that beautiful gloss and finish. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm then going to draw on these, color them again. So we're going to go through these processes today. Now, last week we also did some with some lollies in the middle. Now I tried crushing it. It was a bit of a disaster, but that's okay. We learn about these things. So I went and found, so just for those that weren't with us last week, you'd think it'd be easy to find boiled lollies, but it wasn't that easy. So these ones here, sugar-free mints, I got those from Chemist Warehouse I have subsequently seen them at IGA. They come in these little packets. Sorry, Mandy, they are plastic, unfortunately, but they're clear. So I end up with a clear window essentially, and I've just put, again, I've just got a little snowflake that I've used in the middle of that. So you can see that here I used a red lolly and I've just put a little star in the center of it. So again, they've come up beautiful in that single tone. And then
so creative, Irene. They look fantastic.
They look great. So for these, I've got these from Woolies, and the Woolies ones come in pink, orange, yellow, red. And the pink's quite cute, you know, it's got a little bit of a rose color. Now, a couple of tips with these. So you're going to leave the lolly whole. As I said in the video last week, I crushed them. It didn't quite work. It was too hard to get the powder into the center without spilling it over the cookie. So the whole lolly straight into the middle. I've used a piping tip. Did I leave any out? Probably not. But essentially, I basically cut the hole with a piping tip to give me that hole through there. And you can use anything really, anything that you want in terms of the shape through the middle, but use a whole lolly. Now, as you pull them out after that 12 minutes, did I say 10 minutes before? It was 12 minutes, 140 degrees for 12 minutes. There's lots of bubbles in and around that. So don't do a huge batch or multiple trays of these. Do one tray at a time. As soon as they come out of the oven, you want to grab a toothpick and swirl through and basically bust those holes, or, you know, blend those holes into the existing sugar, and you'll end up with a really lovely window. You're not going to end up with any bubbles through it. So that looks really lovely and clean. Otherwise, they have like a bubbly finish around the side, which doesn't look right. But because it sets fairly quickly, you need to do it as soon as it comes out of the oven. So do those one tray at a time. Was there anything? And of course, while they're still hot, if you want to stick something in the middle, do that while they're still hot. So we're going to have fun some decorating with these, but I'm going to pop these aside. And let's get on to making some royal icing. So the royal icing recipe in the firm mix uses fresh egg whites. Now, depending on the age of your eggs and the fact that these cookies could be sitting around, so I should clarify this.
Irene, before you go on, there's a question from Vicky.
Yes.
The lolly remains a lolly, or is it chewy after cooking?
Right, it'll turn back into a lolly. So basically they get a cookie and a lolly, which is, you know, the kids will love, young and old. Okay, so in terms of storage or shelf life, so once you've done, you know, your royal icing on these, they will sit in an airtight container for 2 weeks. But you can actually freeze them for anywhere up to 12 months. So it's something you can do well ahead, you know, in the year when you've got some spare time. Freeze the cookies, even if you get them to that point, and then come back and decorate or have them ready. But if you put them into like a heat sealed bag so that no air can go in and basically dry them out, even though an airtight container, they don't quite stay, they go stale a little bit quicker, anywhere up to 3 months. So if you're getting them ready to give as gifts, yeah, try and, I guess, vacuum seal them to some extent. You want something where they're going to sit in a bag where, you know, air can't go into them, or freeze them and pull them down. And they absolutely defrost really, really well. And what else did I want to cover with this?
So you freeze them fully decorated?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So the cookies we made,
yeah.
Yeah. So even if you want to, again, I like breaking things down if you can. So if you want to bake the cookies like I showed you earlier, you can freeze those. The lollies, I'm not sure. So what you could do is, when I got to this point after it was cooked, and that lolly will still melt at that temperature. So because you're dehydrating at that 35 degrees, you can even pop the lollies in later. I don't think lollies and moisture in the fridge don't really combine well. So I would leave the lolly ones. You can put the lollies on when you decorate, and you're going to dehydrate those. So just go back to the drying process. So she talks about, and by the way, this is from Miss Biscuit. So where you can get a lot of the stuff that I've literally taken over the kitchen bench with. So basically she's saying pop them into anywhere between a 35 and 50 degree dehydrator / oven. You're going to put them in and they will crust over. So what she's saying is essentially that top part, which I can start doing now, I can start redecorating, seals itself in about 35 minutes. But then you need to allow them to dry completely for up to 5 hours. So Mandy's going to take some of these to our class. We've got a class booked out now. It doesn't matter. There's a class on Tuesday night for our Christmas. Mandy can talk about the menu.
Christmas mix in the Thermomix.
So essentially, I'll decorate these. I'll let them dry anywhere up to 5 hours. I can't bag them today. So what I've said to Mandy is tomorrow I will be able to bag them because I'll be dehydrating them and essentially leaving them in the oven for a full 24 hours after the end of this class. So then I'm dropping them off to her tomorrow where they can be bagged. So you don't want to bag on the same day. So you could bake your cookies, you could freeze those. You can bake your cookies well in advance and freeze those ready for decorating. So you could do that months in advance. You can then decorate with the royal icing and freeze it at this point or a little bit further along, no problem. But like I said, I think once you've got your cookies done, get the family around. It's so much fun and everyone can take what they like. Okay, so let's start. So the royal icing. So royal icing, we started with talking about the eggs. Now, I'm not using fresh eggs, and the reason for that is obviously there's a risk of food poisoning to some extent, and because I want these to sit around for a lot longer, I prefer to use egg white powder. So you can find egg white powder. I found this one at IGA. It was in the health food section. So they're using it as a protein powder, essentially. Saver School, you've heard me talking about Saver quite a lot. The egg powder, egg white powder, which is the one I'm using in this today. You can use the egg white powder. So essentially it is dehydrated egg whites. So they've been pasteurized, so there's no risk of contamination. The other thing I love about it is it's really cost effective because I'm literally I'm going to make 250 grams of it today. I'm using like 6 grams. It's so cost effective rather than me cracking egg whites to try and make this. So really, really cost effective. Get your hands on some egg white powder and that way you're not wasting eggs. Well, you shouldn't be wasting eggs, but you know, how much custard can you eat? And carbonara with egg yolks. So into here, we're going to put in, and you need to combine your sugar with your egg powder. So we're using 250 grams of icing sugar. Now I'm using pure icing sugar. You can mill your own, but you need to sift it. So it's honestly, it's a little bit easier just to get a small bag of your CSR pure, yeah, not the soft, the pure. It has to not have I think the soft has got like a corn flour or something else in it. Okay, so 250 grams. Oh, and by the way, I've put my butterfly in because I want to blend those ingredients, and we're whipping. We want to incorporate some air. So my butterfly is in first. 250 of sugar. And it does go a bit lumpy, this pure stuff, but that's okay. That's what it's for. It's for this purpose. I wouldn't ice biscuits with pure. Okay.
Sorry, what did you say then? You wouldn't ice something with pure?
I wouldn't ice biscuits with pure icing sugar. You'll end up with pebbles because it'll absorb the moisture in the environment around it, so it won't taste very nice at all. So that's my egg white powder. And it's literally 6 grams, maybe 7. We're going to blend those together just on speed 2. And maybe, I don't know, 10 seconds. Okay. We're now adding, so we've got 250 of the icing sugar, 6 grams of the egg white powder. In here, I've got, try to remember what it was now, was it 75? Sorry, guys. It was a quarter. 75, I think it's about 37, 38 grams of water. Just a splash. And I'm going to turn that to speed 2. And I'll show you the consistency.
I've got 23 seconds before I've got to do my.
Okay. You say when. I want to whip this for a couple of minutes. So, Mandy, just whenever you're ready, switch over. So I'll let Mandy. Oh,
Okay. I've done it. I've switched. All right. So just on time. So what I've got to do now is just so you can probably see that toffee, and I'm going to pour it all over here. Okay, scrape it out. See what a lovely dark colour it is. One of the things it'll be really important to do now is really make sure that you scrape the rim of the bowl there. All right, wherever you're making honeycomb, toffee, any of those things, get that nice and clean. So you can see that's on there. I've just got to pop this back on the other machine. Bring you over because what I need to now do is clean it. So that. Sorry, it's a bit difficult to get a angle. So next, I poured it over the caramel, and then I need to put a litre of water in. This is really important to get all the toffee off the. A litre of water and 50 grams of just, normal white vinegar. So, look at that. Okay, and now it's going to do a clean for me. It's really important that you do that quickly so that otherwise your toffee gets stuck on the bowl there and you can't actually get the lid on. So really important that you get that really clean. All right, so that was what I needed to show you then, and we'll go back to Irene.
Thanks, Mandy. So we've been going for about 2.5 minutes, and what we're looking for is essentially pavlova consistency. Yeah, so we're talking about upside down, over your head, not wearing it. Yeah, that's exactly where we're at. So you can see we've got really nice stiffness in that. Okay. So when you're making cookies, you need 2 types of consistencies for your royal icing. So at the moment, what we've got is a really stiff, I call it putty, because it's quite thick. Right. So the next consistency, so there's 2 consistencies we're looking for. One to do the outside of your cookie. So we're talking about a border. So if you look at this cookie a little bit, you can see that I've got a little bit of a line around the edge. And it's to stop the rest of the what we call the flooding consistency from running out over to the sides. So you can see that's really, really stiff. Now, your first consistency has to look like cake batter. So I've literally got, I'm going to do a tablespoon, even a teaspoon of water. And I'm doing this by hand so you can see it, so you know exactly what consistency you're looking for. Oh, and more importantly, I've almost forgot. When you're, I know this is going to sound a bit weird, and even though the frosting is white, I want to show you something else. Can you see how that's turned yellow versus this one that's white? That's exactly what happens to your icing as it sits and dries without the food coloring in it. So if you want it to stay gorgeous and white, you actually have to add white food coloring. So we're going to do that. As soon as I can get the lid off, we're good. Oh, or maybe not. Okay. So this is called Chef Master. It doesn't really matter. Some of the other ones I like to use are this brand called Pro Gel. I get all these from Miss Biscuit. You can get them online. We don't need a huge amount, maybe 3 or 4 drops. And it's going to help it to stay that gorgeous white. Now, when I say cake batter consistency, it's you know, with a cake batter, when you put it in the tin, it kind of starts to flow and settle, but it's not too, you know, it's not perfect, but I think that's probably about right. Now, I don't need any more of that, but essentially what I did is I made that consistency and I've put it in a jar or these little squeezy bottles. I'll talk about these squeezy bottles in a second, but I basically filled 2 squeezy bottles with that external, what I call that consistency. And I still haven't even used a quarter of the first bottle that I did. So I don't need any more of my outlining. This will last in your fridge for a good 3-4 days. So you've got plenty of time to decorate once you've started creating your icing. But the next consistency I'm looking for is what we call flooding. So that was my first one in order to get my borders done. Now with flooding, you actually want it to run. So you want it to settle into a nice, don't get water all over the bench like I just did. You want it to settle. So you'll see that once I mix this through. So as it runs, it literally flows and sits really nice and flat. So you can see that in there. Yes, it's got a really lovely runny consistency, which means as I pour it onto my cookie, which I'll do shortly, it sits really, really well. Yeah. And you can only do that by literally adding that water in after and watching it so you get those 2 consistencies. Now, the second consistency, or this runny consistency, for me, the squeezy bottles are your friend, rather than using piping bags, because you can wash these and reuse them. I use the same squeezy bottle when I do my hot cross buns, my little crosses. And you can actually do a lot of cookies with 250 grams of sugar. So I did well. Didn't get any on my match, which is great. Okay. So that's my royal icing ready to go. So let's show you the 2 techniques. Okay, so the first one, now these bottles are called a squeeze it. Anyone wants to get those. This is a size 1 tip. These bottles, just to show you, you can get them in a few different sizes. Essentially, did I get one out? Yes, I did. Essentially, they come with a little nozzle already, but I can put a piping tip, in this case, my different piping tip, and then attach it to that unit. It's much more difficult to get the thicker consistency into here, but I just used a spoon and used the air squeezing of the bottle in order to suck it through. But essentially, that's that one there. Let me get a couple of cookies. Okay. And yell out if there's any questions along the way. So with your external border, and it's really good because you can actually, if you muck it up, and I'm going to do that deliberately. So I think my nozzles.
I love the idea of those bottles, Irene. They're fantastic.
So I didn't close this. So the other thing you need to be careful of is icing, which is good because my nozzle's blocked. I'm going to get a toothpick to unblock it. With royal icing, it has to be airtight. As soon as it starts getting exposed to air, it starts to crust over. So my nozzle's blocked. So just grab a toothpick. You can see that it's crusted over just on that tip, but the rest of the stuff in there is fine. It's just that tip is blocked. Good way to keep it airtight, so it's not, easy to fix though. Okay. So don't worry if say let's say I've missed, whoops, and I've gone around the side. Okay, not the end of the world. So my hands, I don't know, some days I'm a bit more steady than others, but these are a really easy fix. Oh, except I just broke it. It's funny. That's one for the chef to eat later. It's a bit more gentle than I was. Just wipe it around the edge, yeah? Even use your finger to wipe that off, get that excess off. I've actually dampened the towel here so I can wipe my hand. Just wipe it off. So really easy to do that. But you don't want to do it right down on top of it. You want to move around. I'm going to start down this end. A bit easier for me to see what I'm doing. So I'm actually lifting, so I'm actually above it. So where I've missed it, just wipe it off. Wet towel's good. I'm going to keep going. Pick up where I left off before. Okay, and that's going to keep my frosting inside as I flood it. I want to give this, I don't know, at least a minute. By the time I get to do all three, I'll go back, or by the time I finish the third one, I'll go back to the first one. I should have enough of a border on it where it's starting to, because it's so fine, it will have started to crust over. I might do the tree next. So whoever's got the steady hand at home, I guess this is their job. But really the height is going to help you, and just a steady, consistent squeeze. Okay, missed a spot down here, not the end of the world. And if you've got bits that are overhanging, I'm getting my fingers all over everything. You can just use the toothpick just to help clean it up. I'm just going to go back around this end. Okay. And while it's still wet, you can neaten it to get nice, perfect edges on it. With these ones, I don't necessarily want to flood them. I actually really liked that free form. And so that's using this thicker consistency. So really it's up to you. So I just kind of did those snail patterns, and they don't have to be perfect. This is far from being a, perfect little circle. Because I'm going to put things on it. So you can hide some of those imperfections, depending on, you know, what your hand prints, you know, what you like in terms of running things. And again, they don't have to be perfect. And then, you know, do little circles in between where things can sit. You can even do little dots. That's why this size 1 is quite good for this sort of thing. While they're drying, I'm just going to get my little bit of my decoration stuff out so I can start. So we've got some stars, star in the middle of this one. So where I've got things that don't look so good, while it's still wet, I'm going to hide some of those imperfections. And sometimes less is more, as I say. You don't have to go crazy with things on them. So really simple, but effective. So I'm still going to dehydrate this as well. Yeah, so I'm still going to put these in with the other ones to dehydrate because I want to keep that lovely gloss on that. Okay, so we're coming back to this one. So this is our flooding consistency. So you'll see that it starts to run. And essentially, again, you can use a toothpick. I've got these little gadgets that they do use for a lot of this sort of stuff. This just helps you to push it to the edges. So I'm obviously doing white. If you want to color the icing, just split it up into lots of little bowls, mix through, and ideally you want to use gel food colors, so like the Pro Gel, so any sort of gel food colors. I'll lie to you, I've never bought gel food colors from the supermarket, so I'm not sure whether you can get them at the supermarket. Maybe somebody can Google it while I'm busy filling in these gaps. But Miss Biscuit, fantastic little website. They've actually got their Black Friday sales on at the moment. So if you jump on their website tonight, grab yourself a bargain if there's, you know, colours and things you want to grab.
You can get them at the supermarket.
There you go. Okay, good stuff. Okay. So that will settle. So you don't need to necessarily shake it, but it will settle on its own. And I'm literally going to just set them aside so that I can fill them. Now, with this one, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to go, I probably should have done this earlier, but I'm going to go down the middle. Not bad for my attempt at a line. We're going to flood one side. This is probably a little bit too big for flooding, but you know what? We're not going to buy. I don't have a nozzle. It's like watching me colour in, guys.
Mindfulness.
It is very actually it is quite calming. So it's one of those things. I think it can be a bit overwhelming. There's so many different shapes and designs and I guess those sorts of things in terms of options for decorating, like on our mix shop, we've got the snowman and the reindeer and snowflakes and stars and all sorts of things. Just work with, even if you're just doing a couple of shapes. And I'm only showing you, like, there's so many different things you can do with cookies. This is tip of the iceberg, as they say. Okay, so the reason I'm doing half, I am actually going to flood the other side, but what I want to do is I don't want to put my decoration on both sides. So I just need a mat. So I can reuse these beads. So I've got these little that white little pearly bead. And I'm using a clean mat so then I can pick up the excess beads. So because it's wet, I'm literally just going to pour those beads all over. I think I've got quite a few on the floor now. Okay, so I've got them on half my cookie. It's a multi-use for the mat. Back into my jar. No waste. I might have missed a few just on the edge here. And then I'm going to go back to the other side. And we're going to flood the other side. And of course I could do another color. So I should do YouTube videos on this, Mandy, and call them wellness.
I was just say it's going to be on YouTube anyway.
You post it into wellness videos. It is quite therapeutic. I don't know. There you go. Each their own. Now I've laid it on pretty thick, but it does settle sort of, I guess, more flat as you get to it. But that's I think that looks pretty special, guys. You're going to pay. Oh my god, I just broke it. Whoopsies. I'm very doesn't matter. No one's going to notice it. There we go. Looks pretty good. Okay, so that's
lovely.
That's my royal icing. Okay, now do we want to see? Okay, with this, I guess this sort of method, do we want to see that? Anyone want to see how I did that?
Yeah, go on, do one of those, because they're really cool.
All right, I'll just do a little one.
Yeah,
I think I've only got one left around anyway. My little baby cookie. Okay. So same thing, do the outside. And by all means, you could do all the outsides first. And then come back to do it's good to let that dry, even just a fraction, but we're kind of in a hurry. So actually, you know what? That's way too much. Way too much. My mum's going to have a surprise in that tea towel.
I guess the good thing if you were doing this with kids is you could have this bit all done beforehand, and they can just do the fun bit of the because they'd probably be way impatient doing this, but they can, you know, do what they want on top.
Yeah, look, that's the thing. So all those other ones that I did earlier, that they're now dry, so they can now just give them a super glue version. So give them the thicker consistency, so then they can use that to stick things on. Okay, so excuse me, I did put way too much on that. Okay, so at the supermarket you will find queens. You don't have to do this again. You can color. You can absolutely get your own colors, but they've actually got some of these icing tubes, and they're in I guess a like a metallic finish, which is really, really pretty. So if I can find, I'm just going to find one of the metallics. Do we go pink? Yep, let's go this one. So just a dot in the middle, and then I just go around. Actually, I don't think this is a metallic. That's okay. So we're doing that snail pattern again. Okay. Toothpick. You can see that. So I'm going from, I'll do it actually, you can see it from the camera. So down, I'm not pushing all the way down. I'm not touching the cookie. I'm just running it over the top of the icing. So from the center back the other way, we'll do these areas first, then in between. So it's our spider web. You did some spider web stuff for Halloween, didn't you, Mandy? One year?
I'm just trying to think what I did do.
What's your daughter? I mean, maybe it was your daughter. I can't remember. Someone did some cupcakes.
Yeah, I don't think it was me.
Bringing it back the other way.
Makes it look more like a star.
Yeah. I do this on top of cheesecakes. It's really nice on the cheesecake pattern.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, really simple design. And again, we're going to dehydrate that. Okay, so that is royal icing, and really sky's the limit. Change colors, and essentially that's how they do all the multiple colors. You've got to do the border. A bit like I did that tree, you can do half, do another color on the other side to get all of those sort of patterns to work. The next thing I want to show you is fondant. So we're going to pop these aside. So some of the fondant ones I did is I just rolled out some fondant. So this is a cookie, and I literally used two size cutters. And so I've baked the cookie in the bigger size, and this is the green. So I'm going to decorate that again with some of the white royal icing, so that I can do. So I'm going to put a little star on the top. So just putting a dot there, and I'm using that same little star to give me my little star on top of my tree.
Oh, very cute.
It's cute. And then I guess that traditional style that you see, so, you know, cross. And I'm squeezing pretty hard here to get my flow happening. Oh, it broke off on me. Okay, so even something as simple as that, I can put little balls on it. So just really, it's just use your imagination. One of my other favorites, and I actually picked this up this is from Maya. So they had plenty of stock. So you see lots of rolling pins available where in Christmas themes, snowflakes. This is an Australiana one, so I quite like this one. And essentially, I just rolled out the royal icing, and hopefully, actually, let me put this up a bit, so maybe it's a bit more light. You can see the pattern. Can you see?
Oh, you can just, yes, you can see it now. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Really simple. Just
Yeah.
the icing and then pressing that into the icing to give you those cookies. I actually put that back in the oven to dry a little bit. So you do want it to be a little bit dry before you do anything with it. There's lots of metallic powders available. Just got to find it on this table. Yep. Okay. So you can buy food edible metallic powders, and it is using the tiniest amount. If I could open it, we're okay, except I can't even open it. I wonder if it's got a seal on it. Must have a seal on it.
Come on, muscles.
And I'm blind as a bat. I can't even see if it's got a little thing on it. It must have sticky tape on it.
I must have.
Seal it. That's so funny. Do you need to
show?
Andy?
Oh yeah, I can show you what I've made. Yes, we'll you battle away there, and I'll just swap over. All right, so I just thought I'd show you what I've made. So the balsamic finished cooking and all. So just so you know, I wasn't sure how much I was going to end up with, but it's halved. So that was, I have 500 mils of the balsamic vinegar, and that is a 250 ml bottle. I'm not holding it by the bottle because it's still quite warm. So just remember to warm the bottle before you put the balsamic in. The reduction, so that's the caramelized balsamic reduction. There's my chai. Oh, the bottle, Teresa, honestly, I just went to my bag, my box. I've got a couple of boxes of bottles and it was just in there. So I was very lucky. That's a chai, and that's a chai, a little jar there as well. And I put the brittle in a jar because it's obviously trying to avoid the plastic. Now we can't even recycle it. That's the brittle I made the other day with the macadamias. And this is what I made today. Thank you. Yes, actually that's at a point now I can. No, it's not quite cold enough. So it's still a little bit, I can move it, it will still move a little bit. So I've got to let it cool a bit longer. And then all you do is just pick it up and pull it apart. So really simple, some, really easy gifts. That was a minute. That was 25 minutes, but you weren't doing anything with it. You could be off doing other things. And the brittle, same thing, it was like 20 minutes. So easy, easy Christmas present options. So I'll go back to Irene, who's managed to wangle away in.
I managed to get the jar open, thank goodness. Just had some sticky tape, which I couldn't see. So I literally use the tiniest amount on the brush, and I'm using that tiny amount in just to kind of spread it over inside the little lid, and you lightly brush it on. So it just helps to highlight, so you can see a little bit of that. It's a bit hard to see.
But we can see it better. It definitely makes a difference.
Actually accentuates the pattern that you're getting. Some of the other ones I used.
Does it lovely?
2 mixed colors.
Oh yeah,
exactly the same print. So it's just really, really easy. With just want to show one more, so we'll pop that one aside. So with the ones that I've done, okay, so I'm going to use that star. A couple of the other things that you can find are edible markers. So there's a Sprinks one. So I'm just going to, I'm going to use a color. What's your favorite color, Mandy?
You know what it is. I told you on Monday.
Did you?
But it probably doesn't go with that. Yellow.
Oh, no, I'm not going to do yellow.
No, I don't do yellow.
It probably won't pop up as much.
No.
I'm going to do, I'll pick a red. Why not? Let's go red.
What was yours was red anyway. Yours was red.
So I've never done this before. So, we're about to find out if it works. So these are edible markers. So again, you can get those from Miss Biscuit. It has a fine point and a thick point. Yeah, I'm just seeing what will happen when I do this. Okay, so let's do this. So Mandy, what would you like? So I found these. I can't do these little intricate ones. They're so tiny. We've got a tree, gingerbread, snowman. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's so cute.
And what would you like?
Oh, let's have a reindeer.
Reindeer. Okay. Cute.
Pearl probably wouldn't pick it as a reindeer though.
So I'm going to literally write. Oops.
I agree with Teresa. You've got all the gizmos.
So I've written.
Oh, thank you.
And remember, this one's a bit like super glue. So
yeah.
I'm just going to put a few dots underneath.
Yeah.
And attach it to your tree, Mandy.
Oh, thank you.
No, it's not more. It's a bit bowed, so it needs more. That's better.
Oh, how cute's that?
So there's so many things you can do. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Imagine making all of those for your grandchildren, both of you ladies. That's gorgeous. Personalized.
Edible markers are awesome. Yeah, I have you don't want to see what this kitchen looks like at the moment. It's just crap everywhere. But I can keep going with that. You know, I could probably stick some little red dots and things around it, but
it's cute like it is.
Great way to personalize gifts. It's so much fun. So I'm having a ball doing this. Any questions?
I'm just going to change the view, so anybody's welcome to ask any questions if you'd like to. Thank you, Irene.
You're really welcome.
Oh, you better do one for your mum.
Yeah, no, she won't eat all that icing. She'll eat these broken biscuits. She'll be happy. All good.
Oh, Andrew said if you've overcooked any, he's very happy to eat them.
I'm bringing all, so you're getting all of the other ones that we had cooked the other day. So we're going to show just the possibilities. So it really is so simple and really to make this stuff at home. So all of these little packets of, I think there's like 12 little decorations. I think they were like $4 or $5. They were from Woolies. Dig out some cutters that you can find. It's the bottles, these squeezy bottles, which I really like because you can alternate the lid and it means you're not using all those disposable bags.
And they're just called Squeeze It.
So they're called Squeeze It. So Miss Biscuit only had the big ones. So I did order the little ones online. So you can, and honestly, that small one, I'm still literally going through that first bottle. I could probably decorate easily maybe 50 biscuits just with that little, that's how much little you need just for the borders. And you can see it just stops the frosting running off. When we were the other day, because we were using one consistency, you can see it's kind of run off the sides. So it's just a neater process. Now the other thing we did do in that on Monday, which is really simple, is that runny consistency. You can literally pour it into a bowl, grab your biscuit and dunk it. Like you don't have to do the border. If you can't be bothered doing any of that, dunk it and then just use an offset spatula just to kind of wipe off that excess. And it's the quickest way to cover them. If you can't be bothered with the whole piping side of things, it definitely worked. Really, really simple. We did that with quite a number of the ones that we used. So we did them with the stars and it's actually not too bad. I mean, we had a little bit of run on that one side, but for the most part, they were pretty even. And remember what I showed you before, you can grab, when you do have that excess, just grab a, toothpick or something to clean up. So the only tip, I forgot to mention. So in order to stick the fondant onto the cookie, I've just literally got a brush and with some water. You don't have to do anything fancy with that. But I still pop all of these back in the oven, even though you don't need to do that with this. I do now because I've put that royal icing on there. I think because they're such a light color, you can see how, they're really, really perfect in terms of that finish. They're just a touch under, I think, in terms of the cooking because they need to go back in because of this. So just decide if you're going to leave them like this where you don't want to put them back in the oven, just cook them maybe for another couple of minutes, probably maybe 14 minutes at most. So yeah, I'm going to keep going. We're going to do some Christmas wreaths. So Yeah, they're going to look really nice. I'm going to do the chai, Mandy. I'm going to do that. How much do you reckon you'll get out of that one?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've got, hang on, I'll just come back to me a second. I'll show you. Actually, look, I'll tell you, I'm going to stop recording. So I just want to personally thank Irene very much for all her expertise and knowledge, which she always shares with us too. And thank you, ladies, for coming along. And I'm going to stop the recording.